Wow. Thank you so much to Alicia and Lauren. There were so many impactful takeaways from that conversation, and I jotted down a whole series of notes I'll have to circle back to. I also want to thank our audience. There were over 4,500 participants in Inspiration Summit, and I am still just blown away from today's event. While there is not enough room on any single slide or a multitude of slides to capture all of the impactful key takeaways from today's discussion, I wanted to highlight a few on this next slide that really resonated with me. We started off our discussion today talking about career pivots and the notion that a career path does not have to be linear. And in many cases, it's not. One of the takeaways that Pam Hall had shared was that it's important that we articulate our interests. No one is tapping us on the shoulder, getting us ready for our next career pivot or career move. Emily also doubled down on that thought, and she used the phrase, declare it and share it. That comment got a ton of love in our chat. I think it resonated with so many folks within our audience. From there, we navigated to a conversation about negotiating your salary like a pro. Was Claire not amazing, or what? Amazing insight, feedback. And one of the pieces I jotted down was this concept of finding your fire and let it outshine your fear, right? What is that fire that will drive momentum in your negotiations and advocating for yourself and activating that agency? And it may not become immediately apparent to you, but if you think about what ignites that fire, it could be career advancement, it could be caring and providing for your family. Maybe it's negotiating a salary that will allow you to further your education or save for a down payment on your home, right? And I loved that takeaway, and that's going to stick with me for the foreseeable future. Next, we had interviewing 101, right? And I think all four panelists talked about this concept of, yes, we need to be prepared, right? And we need to do our due diligence going into those interview discussions, but let's still be authentic. Let's be true to ourselves and not overly scripted in those interview conversations. I loved the conversation with Sally Krawcheck from Elevest, who talked about equality of women and our wealth and our well-being. And you know what? She said, just do it. Step into the game. We underestimate the cost of not investing. I think the stat that she shared was that for every day we're not investing, it's like throwing a $100 bill on the side of the road. And so I hope that all ignites an interest and a passion and an interest in going out and starting our investing journey, not just relying on that 401k. And of course, we have to continue to elevate our well-being. I loved Seema's feedback about prioritization. So whether you're a leader who can help your team prioritize, an individual who could set boundaries for yourself, or a colleague who could also help share some of the workload and prioritize the work that's coming through, it's so important for us to do that, especially in work environments where there is no shortage of work, right? We all have a massive to-do list. And I think this concept will be really impactful for all of us. And then, of course, we had a very important conversation around diversity and intersectionality. Quinny had a sentiment about if we can challenge ourselves, we can do better work, and continuing to challenge ourselves to be better allies, be better from an empathy standpoint. And she also had a really great exercise I encourage all of us to go back through that allowed us to identify maybe some of the privilege that we have in the workplace and more, right? We had so many great conversations, and we want to keep that conversation going. I could chat for hours and hours about all of the takeaways from Inspiration Summit, and I want you to take part in that conversation. So I started a thread on the Fairygodboss community feed where I want you to chime in. We'll drop the link in the chat as well so you can easily find it. But please, I shared some of my takeaways. I want to hear from you. What were some of the most impactful moments, pieces of advice, actionable insights that you received from today's event? We would love to hear from you and keep that discussion going. We're also going to quickly share the QR code to the Fairygodboss community feed so that you're able to quickly access it. And one of the things I wanted to make sure I called attention to as we wrap up today's event is that as we talk about Fairygodboss being the largest community for women, I want to highlight that we are an inclusive community. And when we use the term women, we're inclusive of cis women, trans women, non-binary individuals, and of course, our allies as well. Next, we're going to remind you to connect with us on Fairygodboss and the Muse on our social channels. We're continuously posting new content. And if you have additional social posts that you've brought to your networks, continue to hashtag at Inspo Summit and tag us in that post so we can keep conversations going on all of our social channels. And I also want to ask you one piece of advice, or one favor rather. We want to hear from you. We have a link to a type form. It's a brief 5-question survey. Please share your insights with us. We want to make sure that we continue to provide really great events that serve you and our community really well. So please take just a couple of minutes and complete that survey for us. And once more, I would like to thank our amazing sponsors, Allied Arsenium, Capital One, Career Group Companies, CSL, Dish, DoorDash, Eaton, Morgan Stanley, Esri, GE Vernova, Influx Data, Invitation Homes, Lowe's, Morgan Stanley, Navex, Pfizer, RWE, Sonopar, TikTok, Wabtec, Waters, and ZS. Thank you for all that you do to support women and their allies in the workplace today and every day. And again, thank you to our speakers and attendees as we spent today reigniting our sense of purpose, ambition, and inspiration. It was an incredible event, and I look forward to seeing you next time.